Okay. Welcome to the weekly update. I'm gonna try to do these during the weekend. It's really tricky. Just carving out the time necessary for the updates is hard. For one thing, I want to just pour the time into actually creating things, but I think this is also useful. It's good for organizing ideas and it's good for communicating meaning, theoretically. I'm still working on it. But it's been about a month since the last weekly update. Uh, just busy. But I've also been up to a lot of stuff, which is good. That did not advance to the next slide. There we go. So, the next planned event is going to be a special stream. So, it's not going to be going over a product release. We're still holding off on the Duelist Genesis, and that's because I wanted to get a few more things ready before I get that. Like, we're at a bit of a watershed moment. We've going from the GX era to the 5Ds era, and I wanted to bring some big optimizations and improvements to the stream, and we'll see one of those in the presentation. This stream is not that. This stream is communicating to the main channel a lot of what I've been working on. Some things, the earliest fruits, are now present, and I want to show off some of them just so that anyone on the main channel can get a better idea of why things take so long. This is going to be on the metagame, and I have been documenting the metagame for a year, but have been continuously improving on the structure and machine readability of what I have. Started as text, then it had a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet was terrible. It had 10,000 columns. I don't know if you know this, but Sheets has a limit of 10 million cells. So I was running into that issue, interestingly. It had performance issues. It crashed my computer multiple times. Like, we are operating at the very edge of what Sheets is capable of doing, which is crazy. So that's a dead end. Evolutionary dead end. Had to abandon it, had to start over, and started using Python and JSON. JSON is a file format. Python is computer code. Oh. And I've got some utilities built around that now, which is good. Specifically, this presentation is going to be on the metagame, and this is going to be like generalities. It's not quite to the point where I can point at individual formats. It's still quantized to the level of tournaments, and that introduces some interesting quirks. I've figured out where I want to go from this point, but we'll get to that later. A lot of this is because I have had an initiative for, like, I don't know, since the channel began almost, that I want to encourage play in other formats, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Just having one format, the current advanced format, is really sad, because there's 25 years of history of the game, more or less. In Japan, they got more. In the US, and I guess the TCG in general, they got a little bit less than 25 years right now, but we're going to, I guess, celebrate 25 years next year, which is going to be fun. But you got one particular format that you could play in competitive, and that's really sad. Like, you go on Smogon, and Pokemon's got a couple dozen different formats that you can play. There's like one for each generation, and sometimes there's multiple for different generations. Like when you get differences in the metagame because of a new game that released within the same generation but changed mechanics. Sometimes with the DLCs, you get the early metagame and then you get a later metagame just based on the new Pokemon that arrive. It's really interesting. I'd like to see that be applied to Yu-Gi-Oh! In the far, far future. But in the meantime, it'd be nice just to have more people playing older formats like Edison or Goat. Those are two big names, but I think that there's a lot of really fun eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! That could still have a lot of experimentation in the medicines. I don't think a metagame is ever solved in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think it's just because the game is so complex that I don't think that you're going to be able to solve it. It's really interesting. If you've been keeping up with GOAT format, there have been metagame developments, and people are trying all sorts of weird things in GOAT. Like, people are teching in Zork and having little bits of ritual cores so that you have a bit of a more control game. That's cool. I like that. People are teching in Emissary of the Afterlife and like real high attack level 3 normal monsters just because there's so much centralization around the weak monsters like Danza Lug, and you can get over them with Dragon Zombie. Really interesting. I like that. Card advantage is important. People are experimenting with a lot of different tech, even though you still see the main brushstrokes, which are Chaos and Warrior. There's still room for experimentation. I think rituals have some serious viability in GOAT format, but I think the way that you have to play them is different than what I've been trying. But that's a stream for another day, I guess, is we're going to start looking into all the different possible GOAT strategies that I've come up with. I think in the future, just being able to point at a period of time would help too. Like, I'm looking at dates and it's a little bit confusing because TCG products are released at different times in different areas. So, Portugal got like Legend of Blue Eyes a month earlier than all the other regions for some reason. I guess the Japanese to Portuguese translation is easier than the Japanese to English. I really don't know. It's interesting. Or maybe it's something at the printing level. Regardless, I'm going to be standardizing for North American releases because I think that's the cleanest way to do it. Most of the time, the North American release is the first time that cards are eligible to be played within like a day or two. Sometimes the Europeans get it a little bit earlier. I think that's the way that I want to do it. There are weird standouts like that Portuguese example. I think that happens actually multiple times. I want to have integers to represent the different formats. So like the period of time from Legend of Blue Eyes launching should be 1. Then when we get our first ban list, which actually happens during Metal Raiders. No, it happens during Legend of Blue Eyes and spans through the first 4 days of the release of Metal Raiders. So our first format is Legend of Blue Eyes, no ban list. Our second format is Legend of Blue Eyes under the first ban list. Our third format is Metal Raiders under the first ban list. And then our fourth format is Metal Raiders under the second ban list. I think that's the cleanest way to do it. And it should make things a little simpler. And the immediate thing that you're thinking is probably those are just core booster sets. There's a lot more products that are released, and I think that that's true and something that I'm going to be working on with micro formats. So we're going to have the big numbers, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to have letters to define what the individual smaller formats are within that. So it'd be like 1A is just Legend of Blue Eyes. And then I think the next product was released was Dark Duel Stories Forbidden Memories promo cards, which I believe came out at the same time. Anyway, those would constitute micro format 1B. Then the following set, I believe, was released was Starter Deck Yugi's Starter Deck Kaiba. So those would be 1C. And we'd keep going like that, where we have the whole number, the integer, defining the big format, and then the letter defining the sub or micro formats. So probably should have advanced the next slide. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to show off is the graphics development that I've gotten, and there are some problems still. Looks like the peak play statistic might be using weighted percentages instead of the normal ones. I got a 200% play rate, which might be true. It might be that there's 2 copies in each deck that's in this particular regional. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's going to be Stardust Dragon is in the Duelist Genesis, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have more information in the streams, is so that you can get a good comprehension of when I say meta at one point. I'm going to say like, several top 8 finishes and maybe some low ranking finishes. Low rank is anything below top 8. And that goes down to top 128 in certain tournaments because there were just a lot of documentation, and I thought that more documentation, more data points would be better. I have it in the JSON so that there's 2 different tags for the card, for one for the top 8 finish, which I think that level of, information is fine. If it's in the top 8, I think it had a shot of being top 1, and it's not necessarily the most dominant card. It's a numbers game. Everything in this is a numbers game where we need to simplify because we have 15,000 data points. We need to aggregate, we need to simplify. And that's one of the things, is when I get the whole number, integer, and the micro formats, I can apply those timescales to the different formats which exist, and then I can get aggregates for what the metagame was. So we'd get one aggregate for like the 2014 metagame, and then a different aggregate for the following product release or ban list. I think that would be the best indication. So every time that there's a static card pool for a period of time for a static ban list constitutes a format. There's a lot of statistics. I've worked on these slides for quite some time. They're computer generated, so I'm not hand typing the information in each time. I just want to point that out there because I got almost 4,000 of these top rated cards that have at least a handful of top 8/low rank appearances in the tournament data set that I have, which again is 15,000 data points. And growing. I'm adding as new tournaments come out. I do want to point out that there isn't really Genesis coverage yet, because that's its own thing, and I'm going to work on that later. Soon. Or maybe not even soon. Eventual. I probably should have placed this slide a little bit earlier, but I was talking about the different ban list and core boosters, and doing it from memory for some reason instead of advancing to the next slide. So yeah, there 1A, our first format is just Legends of Blue Eyes before the first ban list, and I guess you could just play 3 Pot of Greed, 3 Raigeki, 3 Flute of Summoning Dragon. Well, you could play 3 Flute of Summoning Dragon the whole time. But Lord of D and Legend of Blue Eyes, and just Blue Eyes White Dragon, and it's an interesting format to play in with just Legend of Blue Eyes cards. And I say that, and now I think that Flute of Summoning Dragon might actually be in Structure Deck Kaiba, or Starter Deck Kaiba. Regardless, this is what I've been working on, and just compiling the dates took a lot of time, and there are simplifications because of different regions, but I'm working on it. In terms of structure, I think I'm going to try to make a little PowerPoint presentation and then maybe have some video overlay for different ideas in the future. Because I think the semi-structure is probably the right call rather than just trying to read off what I wrote in the production log or freehanding? Improvising based on what I can remember at the moment. So, plus there's a little bit of visual and a little bit of structure, and I think it looks a little bit better using the spearmint theme. Might change out that. Haven't really decided. But that's this week's update, and I think things are going well. Stream, I really want it to be Thursday, but it might end up being the following week one more time. So, till then, here's the weekly update.